Yo, welcome back. Got the RX-8. Final time the engine and transmission is going in. I had to put a new flywheel on there to fit the LQ4, the manual transmission. They were never meant for manual trans, so I had to get a custom flywheel. So I got that in. Got the GKTech shifter installed. Yeah, now I'm just at the point where the motor is gonna stay in finally. This is the last time I should have to pull the motor out. Had the intake manifold, the exhaust manifold wrapped, all the sensors installed, starters installed, trans mount, engine mounts are all ready to go. Now it's just a matter of installing the front accessory drive. Just have to figure out some stuff there. Have all the brackets from ICT billet, and then just finish up the wiring. Hopefully not too much longer. Just some of the stuff been able to get done today. Yo, okay, so I don't know how many times I've said this now, but I think the LS is going to be in for the final time. Hopefully. I had to get a custom flywheel made for the LQ4. I don't remember if I took a video of me replacing that or not. If I did, I'll drop it in right now. But if not, yeah, I just basically the starter wasn't reaching far enough for the flywheel. So I had to get one that kind of came towards the block more. And just seeing what my cats are doing down here. Yeah, I got the new flywheel in, and starter matches up a lot better now. So I have the starter in. The only thing I have to do now is with this new GK Z33 shifter is go ahead and cut some of the bracket off the CX Racing transmission mount. It's just hitting, it's not intended for a Z33 CD09 trans. It's for a T56. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off some of the bracket for the CX Racing transmission mount. Get that cut off, and then I'll be able to mount the transmission and then get the motor mounts finally like fully mounted, and then kind of be done with taking the engine in and out, you know, pretty much every time I work on it. Yo, all right, so it's the next day. Got this bracket all done. So I ended up taking, this came out to like here and here. So I had to cut it, and then I had to kind of notch it right here at that angle. It clears the transmission and the GKTech CD09 shifter bracket. So I'm going to mount this back onto the reinforcement plate, like the chassis rib plate, whatever the hell it's called, for the RX-8, and then yeah, get the transmission mounted up, and then get back to getting the motor mounted up. Hopefully never have to take it out again. So I got that mount cut up. I feel like I've done this video so many times now. This mount I had to cut up to get it to fit up in there. So this attaches to the factory reinforcement plate. I forget exactly what it's called. That's all tight, and then there's a bolt here and a bolt here, so that connects that bracket to the transmission, and then 1, 2, 3 hold that bracket to the plate. So I had the drive shaft in, and there's another plate right here, this guy right here. And then also this black piece right here, that's that GKTech shifter kit, and it shortens the shifter linkage from the CD09, because before it was like all the way out here. So we shortened it up to get it, and it fits perfectly for this hole. So the only thing I need to do is still adjust, this bracket is slightly pitched, so I just need to make some fine-tuning adjustments on the shifter. That way it's hitting all the gears right. Here's the LS, I guess T56 bell housing, made it to the CD09. I don't know if you can tell, but basically there is no engine crane anymore. So we had the motor mounts in both sides. I went ahead and tightened them, like fully tightened everything. This is what it looks like with the motor in there. I was having issues. I don't know what happened. So the block, the back of the head was hitting some of the stitching of the chassis. So I ended up moving the motor mounts one position forward. Pretty sure I had it in the middle before, but I'm not sure what happened exactly. Right here, here's some of the mounting holes. So yeah, it was on the hole back here, so I moved it up to allow the block to come forward towards the front of the car more. That gave me the clearance I needed. Sits a little bit far forward than I want. It sits a little bit higher than I want also. You can see there's like a good 1.5 inches of clearance right here, and I want the engine to sit lower. It's just not happening with the way the motor mounts are designed. Yeah, now I'm just gonna go, not tonight, but yeah, I finished wrapping this exhaust manifold. All right, tonight I'm gonna try to finish the upper part of the engine. I wanna be able to get the intake manifold installed. So we got the intake manifold. This is an MSD Atomic for LS with cathedral ports, like LS2, LS6, and LS1 style. So I'm gonna get the intake manifold mounted. So I just need to tighten the oil pressure sensor, camshaft position sensor, and then the bolt for the transmission bell housing that I took off to be able to lift this up by the engine hoist. Steam port up front here. So once I get those in, I can go ahead and put the intake manifold onto the top of the motor. All right, I got this 12 mil bolt here. Tighten the back of the camshaft position sensor. Pretty sure that's tight. It should be a 27 mil. I think I got that tight before I took the motor out. And then we have this bolt back here to hold the top position for the bell housing transmission to the top of the block, the 15 mil socket. We'll go ahead and do the steam port right here. I'm using the factory steam port kit. I did have the full kit from Earl's or Holley, but the way the junction block, the manifold block met in the center here on the valley plate, the intake manifold wasn't able to sit fully flush. Let me grab my 10 to tighten these up. Not too much torque here, just enough to get it seated. Before I set this in, I'm just gonna go around, make sure all these bolts are all evenly tightened. When I took the manifold out, one of them was a little loose. Those are tight. And then just takes 10 of these bolts. There was 1 or 2 washers missing, so I'm gonna see if I can find those. But these just go down, straight down like that. So I'll go ahead and get this mounted. We got the manifold. Just gonna check to make sure, yeah, I'll be able to connect the wiring harness to the oil pressure sensor and the camshaft position sensor once I'm going to install the harness. I just want to make sure this is in there, nice and seated. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and run those bolts in. So the manifold is bolted down, nice and tight. I had to do like 5 or 6 passes on all the bolts as the plastic kind of conformed to the mounting surface. I have the water pump. I'm going to go ahead and install that now. I just have to I bought new hardware for that. I just have to find that real quick. So I'll go ahead and get the water pump installed. And then this is an ICT billet alternator. No, the alternator's down here. No, this is for the alternator. AC compressor is over here, and then the water pump obviously has the water pump pulley, and then tensioner over here, and then an idler pulley down here somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get the front accessories in. This hardware kit from ICT Billet, LS water pump thermostat bolt kit, 551434. Came with 6 longer bolts and then 2 of the short ones for the thermostat housing. Yeah, a lot of ICT Billet comes clutch with a lot of this hardware for this motor. So I'm going to go ahead and get the water pump all bolted up. So I got the hardware, got the water pump. All right, I have that one started. Do this side real quick. Alright, just get those started and then just kind of finish off. Just make sure the gaskets are lining up. This side's all done. Alright, cool. I'm just going to go ahead and finish off, tighten these, all 6 of these up. Just a 10 millimeter socket. Alright, before I go any further, I just want to try to mock up the fuel system. So these MSD fuel rails came with all the AN fittings I need, and since this is going to be a return style fuel setup, I'm just gonna come in here, wrap around here, and then this piece here is going to come this way. I'm just going to have it loop above just like this and run the, I guess, yeah, I'm just going to have it run from here straight across, and then same thing for the back side. Just got to find the other piece. So that's a 90. I think what I'll do is get a 45 degree fitting, and then run it back here, and then I just have to get an adapter for the fuel lines. I'm going to use the stock fuel lines for the car, and then just run them in and then see if I have the right AN hose and just kind of mock up the fuel lines. Boom, fuel filter, got all the fuel lines, AN lines, another inline fuel filter, fuel pressure regulator, fuel pump brackets, or not fuel pump brackets, fuel filter brackets, all Earl's fittings. I got these quick disconnect OEM style fuel line adapters. All right, let's get into it. Fuel. All right, just go over some of the parts. So here's a, I think it's a, actually, yeah, there's a 100 micron fuel filter, inline fuel filter. Got the mounting brackets for it. Here's another inline fuel filter. I just got this one just in case I need an extra one. I'll probably run this back to back. Have my 6 straight, I believe these are dash, I think everything's all dash 6. So dash 6 straight, dash 6 90, and then 45s. And I got 3 adapters because I didn't know if the fuel pressure regulator came with their fittings or not. So they actually did come with 3 of their own fittings. So I have some extra fittings there. These things are the best thing ever probably. So this goes on your OEM fuel line as long as it looks something like this. So this line here, the pressure and return line. So see that little nub right there? That fitting goes right over top of it. I'll show you really quick. All right, so here's the fitting to Earl's, and on this RX-8, it's a 5/16. So you have this fitting here on the end. So we'll unthread that. And then it looks something like this. And then this is just threads in here, and there's a, can't really see it, but there's an O-ring in there. So you take this bottom piece, slip it underneath on the bottom side of this fitting. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this one-handed. And then you take this piece, slide it over the top, and it should be a tight, snug fit to get the fuel line past the O-ring. Kind of hard to see, but I have that bottom piece on there, and then you just thread them into each other. This is actually really hard to do with one hand, but so we have the fuel line right there, and then it just comes underneath here and grabs. So it's going to come underneath, and then it just kind of pinches itself onto the fuel line, and then now you can run a -6 AN line straight from here, from your stock fuel lines. So I just need to figure out where to mount the fuel filter and then how I want to run the lines. I think one of these 45s I'm going to run straight off the back here, just because the way it was bending around the manifold, just because it just give it a little bit more room. I might even run a straight line right there, but there's plenty of room back here, so I might end up running the fuel filter right back here and the fuel pressure regulator, and just kind of keep it all tucked up right back there. Gonna spend some time messing around with this and see exactly where I want to mount everything. First thing I needed to do was figure out where I'm going to mount the fuel pressure regulator. I think I'm going to mount it right here in the engine bay. It's kind of tight down in this area, but if I make a plate that comes off these two studs right here, I think it'll come out pretty nice actually. So I made a little template. Got the holes, got some holes right here. I'll just go to work and tomorrow make a little bracket out of some sheet metal. Got to put a couple holes in it. I'll bring the mounting plate for the fuel pressure regulator. So yeah, it's just nothing crazy, just a piece of cardboard with some holes in it. So I'll transfer this over to sheet metal, make the plate for it, and then I also need to get a plug for this side of the fuel pressure regulator, since I'm only going to need the inlet here and one outlet. And then obviously it comes with the pressure gauge and then vacuum source, and then here's the adjuster. So I need to do that first before I can start running lines, just to make sure I have the regulator mounted where I want to mount it, and I can start running the lines real quick. But yeah, I'm just going to finish up that plate, so next time I'll have that plate all done. Okay, Sunday, back in the garage. I ended up making this little plate. This is going to mount. I have 4 holes kind of pre-stamped into this. This is just like a scrap metal aluminum sheet I got from work. Kind of cut it down the size, moved out the edges. Kind of see, just give it like a little brushed aluminum look. Kind of a nice finish, but yeah, it's nice and smooth on the all around it. So there's 2 holes. This is actually the top. 2 holes here, which are on the firewall. There's 2 studs already on the firewall, and then these 2 holes here. I grabbed the hardware with some, these washers have like rubber isolators on them to kind of help reduce any vibration coming from the firewall and the chassis. So I'm just gonna drill some holes, just some 4 holes here. Get this mounted in here like that, and then put these onto the firewall. Fuel pressure regulator. I had to order a block off plug for one of the ports. These are just -6 and 9/16-18 or something thread, I think, if you're converting it to standard thread size. So the way the pressure regulator is going to be ran is after the fuel rail, it's going to come into here and then go back to the fuel tank. Pressure gauge is going to go right here, and then this side I have to plug up. It didn't come with any ports or plugs, so those will be here tomorrow, I think. So I'm still gonna get this mounted, that way I'll be able to run all the fuel lines I need to, and you know, for the correct length, and I can just add that plug in, you know, whenever I get it. So I'm just going to try to start on getting the fuel lines done, and then if I have enough time, run a hole through the fuel tank pump flange to allow the fuel line to return back to the OEM fuel tank. And then also I have a fuel pressure, or a fuel pump, I think it's Aeromotive or AEM 340 liters per hour. Yeah, I have it over on the shelf. It looks like an Aeromotive pump. So I'll go ahead and get that mounted if I have enough time today after these lines. There's those 2 studs right there. Just drill some holes real quick. The right side was a little bit off. So this is what it's going to look like in the car. See it right there. So that plate's just going to sit just like that. And then just run some 10 mil bolts right there. And then now I'm just going to mount up the fuel pressure regulator here. I already have these lines in, so I'm just going to finish tightening those up, and then I just have to make sure which one is the fuel feed and then the fuel return line, obviously, so I don't get them mixed up. All right, got the plate done, got the regulator mounted up, and it's just a nut and bolt with some rubber isolator washers on the back side, and I don't know if you can see this or not, right here got some rubber behind the washer as well. So it's just going to get bolted to the firewall, and then we can start running the lines. All right, a couple hours going by, but all the fuel lines are all done. Not the prettiest of setups, but they're all done none the least. So we got the crossover pipe. So the way it comes, we have the, I don't know if you can see down there, pressure line right here. It comes down, loops around, goes to the fuel filter. That comes around into here, crosses over, and then this one comes down into the down at the bottom here. It loops up into the fuel pressure regulator. Have a little block off plug right here, and then the fuel pressure regulator comes down and then into the return fuel line. So the only thing I have left to do is grab the hard line that's down there, cut it, and then figure out how long of a hose I need to attach. So I have this left over. I don't know if this is going to be long enough. I do have this one, like I said earlier, but obviously this is probably not going to be long enough either. So go ahead and attach this piece. It's just a bulkhead fitting, and it's going to go into the fuel pump flange. So back and just drain back into the fuel pump or fuel tank. And then obviously attach it with either the straight fitting or this 90 fitting. And then install the fuel pump, and yeah, the fuel system's done after that. I did grab some new parts, so I'm going with this Terminator X kit. I do have, where did I put it? This AEM Infinity 7. I was going to repin the Holley harness, but I just want this car done, so I ended up just buying the Terminator X, and the customer, he's just going to take this for another car, maybe a later project. This one I did get the 3.5-inch touchscreen or 3-inch touchscreen LCD display, and with this ECU I'll be able to, it's got like the smart startup, just kind of enter in all your parameters of all the parts you're running, and it's kind of like a self-tune option. So just want to be able to get the car up and running. So fuel line's done. Next will be, I do need to wrap the other exhaust manifold, but before I do that I need to get the front accessories done. That way I can time the engine correctly and get all the front accessories done with the correct timing pointer. So that way I know the engine will be mechanically in time for ignition timing, and then I can put in any offsets in the ECU, based on what the camshaft position sensor is reading, compare it to the actual timing marks on the crank pulley. Okay, it's been like 3 weeks maybe. Had to work on my girlfriend's car, Audi B7A4. Got that all finished up. So last thing I did on the RX-8 was finish up the fuel lines. And now I'm going to be taking it to work with me, and eventually, finish the exhaust. I'm going to have to make up a custom exhaust for it, just to meet the LS to the rest of the RX-8 exhaust. And then, now it's just kind of to the point where it's like finer details, and it's just a little bit easier for me to work on it at work with the lift and all my tools there. So I'm just going to be loading it on the trailer tonight. It doesn't have a steering shaft, so brought some vice grips. Hopefully it helps me steer the car a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull the A4 out of the trailer. I was able to borrow the enclosed trailer from work, and then go ahead, put the RX-8 back in there, load it up, and bring it to work tomorrow. All right, the Audi's out, so this is the part I'm not excited for. All right, I'm just gonna pop the hood and figure out how to be able to steer this thing. Luckily, the trailer has a winch on it, wireless remote control, super helpful. So I'm not going to film the whole thing loading, but all right, cool.